going to say this is probably one of the most exciting things I've done all year.
Oh man.
I am here with my soulful brother, David, who I met last year, and I had to get him on a call. I didn't even plan this to record this, but he happened to just announce on LinkedIn, which is where I live, that on Saturday, uh, his art, his work, his passion, and his efforts are going to be kicked off as a musical in New York City. And I sat here going, get got out home, like, what the hell? I'm like, how is he not reaching out, blasting us through the universe, calling me, be like, yo, you in New York? Because I will tell you, when I met you and the other folks that you pulled in as artists and that you were showcasing at the Cause SD, where my daughter pulled me in, I I was like, this is how I grew up. This
Mm,
is what I know, this style, this graffiti style. And then not only are you representing Dominicans, Cubans, Puerto Ricans, but you're going all the way out. You're
yeah.
representing the brown community in such a beautiful way
Thank
and
you,
in
bro.
such a stylish way. That Papitos print, I
Oh,
swear,
the poster.
I need to make that. I need to have that made as like a wall print, right?
Oh
Because
man.
that is dope, right? So here's the thing: um, you're running the efforts of getting art, but not just art. Because I saw this too. You were in the news, and they're recapping how you created a whole expo to enable students and kids who are interested to develop their art. And I'm like, oh, that's cute. But then you created the whole ecosystem for them to be able to sell their art and teach them that there's value in their artwork, right?
Absolutely.
Then I swear, when I saw this in that video, David, I was like, kick it out home. Like, oh no, you didn't. David Homeboy makes custom shoes for the TV host announcer and gives them to him. I was just sitting here going, sir, not only do I need a pair of those shoes so I can rock it and be like, yo, David did these, right? But I go on to the shop after I realize that you've got this musical that you're kicking off, right? With incredible backing and everything else. No need to name drop. Uh, and I'm like, what? So I literally, just like I said, I literally go to sleep. I'm heading into bed. I go, I gotta have like two or three of those shoes commissioned, and then I gotta auction them. Then I gotta give the money right back to David or some other nonprofit or whatever. Because the beauty and the splendor of what you do, but how you do it. I just need to to get you on here to talk about that passion, right?
Absolutely.
What got you here, right? And then uh I need you to elaborate on how you feel about the fact that you have a musical in New York City.
Well, first and foremost,
Talk
my
to me,
brother,
hermano.
thank you so much for setting up this call. I mean, like you said, we met last year, and the energy that I felt, when we linked up, and before I even found out you were Puerto Rican, like it was the energy that you had that kept us. Like you said, we spent most of our time with each other during that conference, and to answer your question, I mean, the best way that I can phrase it is a lot of my rejection that I got in the industry was not a rejection. I had to realize that what it was a redirection, because I had so many like dreams and goals, and I had all these plans, and I kept running into closed doors. And I'm trying to figure out, like, I was having a very difficult time figuring out why I was not able to step into these doors, that these opportunities that everybody said was available to me. And I worked at an animation company, which is what brought me from New York to California. And I worked there for about 4 years. And while I was there, I realized this isn't the opportunity for me. There's something else waiting for me. I just didn't believe enough in myself to like make that leap. And so, you know, I think I was forced out. And this was just like the universe telling me, you need to leave. There's something else waiting for you. So it was masked through a difficult situation that forced me to say, you know what, I'm going to resign. I resigned, and in wanting to pursue this passion, I didn't have a plan. And I made a very emotional decision. I quit my job without a plan, without enough money, and I found myself in a completely different industry. Now I was working selling insurance, which I have absolutely no knowledge about. And I was sitting there thinking, I have two college degrees. I have all this experience in the industry. What am I doing here? Like, how did I get to this point? And I saw it as a moment to reflect on like the next 10 years of my life. This was 2007. And I thought, 2017, where do I want to be? I definitely don't want to be where I'm at right now. That's for sure. And, I just never gave up on what I really want to do. And I think sometimes, Mel, when you have a very clear vision of where you want to end up, nothing is going to stop you from getting to that point. It may take a while. It will take a while. I'll tell you that. But you're going to see that light at the end of the tunnel if you really do have a passion for it, because there's a difference between being passionate about something and just really liking something. You know what I mean? Like, I really like working out, but I'm not passionate about it. I don't like clear my schedule for it. But as it relates to the arts, I've also encountered so much, just like copyright infringement with people ripping my work off. And it all happened at the time that I was at State Farm. My work was getting ripped off left and right. I had like 4 court cases going on at the same time. I had an international copyright case, which I couldn't afford, and I had to drop it. It was terrible. Like, 2007 was a very difficult year, and even through all that, man, after I finally was able to, you know, believe enough in myself to just push forward, um, things started to change for me. I started to understand that we create our opportunities rather than sitting and waiting and applying and hoping somebody recognizes us or discovers us. I'm like, we need to discover ourselves first. So
Um,
once I discovered myself, that's when opportunities started opening up. And it sounds crazy to say it, and it sounds easy, like, oh yeah, I believe in myself, I can make this happen. But it's like, there's a difference between saying I want to do something and actually putting action plan, like, okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to do this for the next month, and let's see what type of results I get. And then you adjust it. Okay, I did these 3 things, they worked really, really well. I'm going to keep doing that. These last 4 things, they didn't work. Take this off the list. Let me analyze, and that's all it is you just keep reworking that plan, keep reworking it until eventually you get to the point where you're calling the shots and you decide what you want to do with your children's book. And you know what? I want to make a musical. Let's work on a musical. You know what? I want to do a program for kids that are going to teach them the value of entrepreneurship and that you can create work and sell it. Let's do it. And that's what it is, man. It really has been a journey. It has been a journey. And I said this earlier. Um, Sometimes when you get down this path of like, oh, I want to create this and I want to do these, you have these ambitious goals. Um, it helps to be surrounded by people that are just full of energy and just believe in you. Because, like I said, when we spoke at that conference, I was like, here's a guy who I've never met before, yet talking with you for about 30 minutes, I felt like I've known you forever. And just the faith that you have in the work and the mission that my company has was like, it served as a reminder that we're moving in the right direction. So I want to thank you for that. Definitely.
all right, let me pause you right there because that last speech you just dropped, I was only mirroring what I was getting. I was mirroring the energy I was getting, the beauty I was getting, the excitement I was getting. And what happens with me is when I get energy like that, it just starts to bubble up, right? Because you heard me cursing the first 5 minutes of our conversation. I'm trying to curse right now, right? You know, because I see it. And this is one of the things that I came to the realization. When I met you in September, I was down there. I had a conflicting other event that I decided not to go to and kind of show support for my daughter and the cause SD stuff. And then I met you and I met a few other folks there, right? Um, and I was like, you're the reason why
Mm.
I canceled on that speaking engagement that I was going to do
Oh,
to show up the full day, right? Why? Because you reminded me of certain things, right? The path I was on last year was, do I need to stay in corporate or do I go and do the passion play of coaching and everything else? The thing about it was, it's almost like an explosion,
yeah.
right? Because I bring my energy and I see people. That's my superpower. I see people, right? Sir, you brought on so much other artwork. I mean, the other artwork that was there was just incredibly beautiful, tied to, Mexican culture, tied to just the, Dia de los Muertos. And I'm like, it was just so incredible where
Yeah.
I'm like, this is almost literally perfection in art form. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous work. And I'm gonna do one other thing.
You got one of the pieces there?
He's next to my desk the whole time. I mean, when I'm
Oh,
talking about something like this, where if you don't actually can see it, it's actually on a glistening paper. So it's absolute beauty. When you're talking about artwork like this, right? That you have supported other artists to be able to create. And I can't remember her name, but what's her name?
Janine. Janine.
Janine. That's right. Because I just saw a post that Janine just posted. I mean, and she's so humble
Yeah.
and she's so soft spoken. And I'm like, this is literally art gallery quality shit, right?
Absolutely.
And not
Absolutely.
that yours is, but I'm just saying, right? Then you drop stuff like this, where I am like literally representing, salsa. I'm like, oh my God. And this one, brother, this is the one. This is the one I want as the wall mural in my
Papitos.
house. Papitos. Like this brought me to when I lived in Brooklyn, when I lived in the Bronx, when I lived in Haverstraw in Rockland County. I'm like, that's right. It was either and for a while I lived in we moved back to Puerto Rico. It was like waiting for the guy that you knew came every other week or once a month with Guinepas or Rafael, whatever, right? Like he had something that you wanted, and there was a line,
Exactly.
right? Or Alcapuria, or
Those are the
like,
best.
and it's just so to me when I look at these things, I'm like, yo, and the beauty of it is that it's in such a crisp, beautiful, like cartoon essence, but it keeps it real.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
And I'm like, yeah, motherfucker, fucking. I
The
don't want to
funny
curse,
thing
but
is, the Papitos was actually the name of one of the bodegas where I grew up. That's where we would go, Papitos.
we
And
take our inspiration for where we come from, brother. I hear
exactly
you. I hear you.
right on that corner, that's where the Piragua man used to come. So we would
Right.
always find him on the corner of Papitos. So that's why I just named Piragua stand Papito.
And this was for me one of those things. I'm like, I need to figure out how to get more eyeballs on you and your efforts. Talk to me about, because you had a transition period. You took the State Farm job because you were living in necessity,
Absolutely.
but you were developing what I call that vision and that goal, and then you started to push that energy out. You started to attract the energy way before I even met you, right? The support, the this, and obviously the noise, the legal issues. Now, fast forward, it's literally 16, 17 years later. Uh, you've been on the news. You've got the, Heroes of Color. You've got the musical. Walk us through the Heroes of Color, creating the Heroes of Color, and then kind of where you are now. Because I'm seeing like global shit where some company, some proper company is going to be like, we need to give this guy 7 or 8 zeros to do whatever the hell he wants to do.
Well, you know what? I'll credit a lot of that to the pandemic, actually, because when the pandemic first hit, my children's book was just launched, and Scholastic had a whole like year of book tours set up. I had, just started to get a bunch of speaking engagements at schools. And I mean, for the first time, my calendar was full. And then obviously all of that stuff got canceled. So I lost close to like $30,000 just from that, like just within 2 months. So I had to think like, okay, how can I pivot? And I was scared. So what I did was I started a podcast, which I don't know anything about, but I started one called damn, what was the name of it? How COVID changed my life or something like that. And I basically interviewed all of my friends who were industry professionals, DJs, news journalists, artists, graffiti art, like business owners. And I, just like we're doing right now, just like a one-on-one, like, yo, talk to me about how the pandemic impacted you and what are you doing to get out of it? Like, what's some of your strategies? And I was using it kind of as therapy because, like I said, I was terrified. So I wanted to get advice from folks that I admired and that I looked up to. And many of them were like, bro, I'm shooting in the dark, but I got a plan. Like, this is my plan and I'm going to execute it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to go for it. And that was a common theme amongst everybody that I interviewed was like, all right, we're scared, but we're doing it scared. Come up with a plan and work on it. Like, just push through it. So that's what I got out of the pandemic, was belief. Again, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. If you really love what you're doing, you're going to find a way. So I started doing virtual workshops because I'm a vendor for the Department of Education in New York City. I was able to get contracts with schools in the Bronx and Brooklyn, Manhattan. And so I was doing comic book workshops. I was doing talks on diversity. And it just like all of a sudden, I went from zero income to, 5 figures, which was a big deal during the pandemic, and then
Yeah, when you had no money, and then all of a sudden
and then all of a sudden
got shut down.
you're paying your
Yeah.
bills on time. So that happened. And so
Wait,
then
how does that work? Oh, no, sorry. The whole
that worked.
on top thing.
So then
We'll talk about that one later.
fast forward a little bit more. Basically, what happened was COVID started to subside a little bit where people were now doing in-person workshops. And the requests were, hey, we would love for you to come to our school, but can you do the workshop, the comic book workshop? And so now I'm thinking, well, damn, my time is very valuable. And if I go to your school, that means I can't go to anybody else's school. So I need to think about how do I expand this business? So that's when I got the idea of hiring staff, training them, and setting them out to the schools. And
Right.
that is where the enrichment programs really began. And I got to tell you, I created a list. I've worked this thing for about, I want to say, 6 months. I created a contact list of superintendents and principals from the LAUSD all the way down to San Diego. And I hired a crew of people. And I said, listen, our job is to email all of these 4,000 people on this list and ask them if they're interested in enrichment programs. Here's the list. Everybody got your assignments. Let's go. So all of us were just emailing. And then one out of the 3,000, one person responded. And this was the school district in San Diego. And we got on the call and I started talking to her. Dude, it was like you could see fireworks going off. The conversation was so hot. Like they were like, yo, you are exactly what we were waiting for. You know, I was pitching a program for one school, actually one class, one classroom.
Right.
Superintendent is like, would you be able to do this for the entire school district? She's like, we have 10 schools in the district. We think you should offer this to everybody. And the program was animating for social justice. So
Right.
I was like, clearly I was not set up for that. But of course, you don't want to show them your sweat.
Yes.
So I said, yeah, I was like, of course. My team's ready to go. You know, and but that's how you create opportunities, is you believe enough in yourself that when you see an opportunity, take it. And then I think it was Richard Branson that said, get the job first and then figure out how to do it later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I live by that.
I love this because out of the 3,000, one saw, recognized, engaged.
Yep.
And that's all you need. I
That's
guarantee you
it.
that's all you need. Even if it ended up being only one classroom, that's all you needed. Because I could tell you would be like, oh, you're adding wood to this fire? Okay, now I know it's real. I'm gonna keep working the hustle. But now you end up 10 schools.
So we're in 10 schools. Year one, we have 500 kids. Year two, which is where we're at now, we're at 1,200 kids. And while that's going on, I ended up pitching to another school district where I used to live. I used to live in a city called Santa Clarita, and I lived there for like 16 years, bro. And I tried to get into that school district with zero luck. I moved out of the city. I ended up getting this contract in San Diego, and now they were interested. So
it's social proof. It's social proof.
social proof.
Like they needed proof that shit would work, or that you're
Exactly.
qualified to look and say, you
Exactly.
know what? You could do this in the background, and in the foreground be like, thank you for accepting my new,
Exactly.
much more expensive proposal.
But you know what? I looked at it like, at the end of the day, who is this serving? This is serving the population that really, really deserves it. So I can swallow my pride and say, let's move forward. Let's move forward. Let's do it.
And that is the challenge of starting a new business, but the beauty of it is, so you pretty much went almost 2.5 times as big, from 500 to 1,200, right? With just one school district, right? You got the social proof and validation, right? That you can and I'm sure in that year or two things got refined, the pitch, the this,
absolutely.
the that, more exposure, more everything else, right? So it could have been a little bit of that, or just the timing, right? Budgets were really shitty, lo que sea. So to me, and just like the events that led to the end of last year for me, everything happens for a reason.
Oh, of course.
There was a reason why I said, you know what, forget about the speaking engagement in San Diego. I was already planning on going down there. I'm going to spend the whole day, and I meet you. There's a reason why I get excited when I see you on TV handing out a mad, just incredibly set of dope fucking kicks.
Well, so
edit that one out, right?
There's a reason for, like you said, there's a reason for everything. So the program that I taught at Santa Clarita, that's in the school district there, we were in 4 schools, and then basically the program is called the Junior Entrepreneurs. For 6 weeks, they learn how to do custom canvases, skateboard decks, sneakers, hats, all kinds of stuff. But while we're teaching them that, we're also teaching them marketing. We're teaching them how to price their work. We're teaching them how to negotiate. And so it's a little bit of business. It's a little bit of art. And then, like you mentioned, at the end, we have that showcase where they get to actually sell their stuff. Everybody gets their own table. They get to go all out. The marketing aspect was like number one. And so I would always talk to them. I didn't teach the class. I hired instructors to teach it, but I trained my instructors, and I would go to visit the classes every week, make sure everything's all right. I'll drop some gems every now and again, but for the most part, I would tell them, in any industry that you're in, it's all about relationships, right? It's all about relationships. And so you mentioned social proof. Well, how will people see that social proof if you don't have any type of media attention? So
Right.
when I was in San Diego, I was able to get CNN, I was able to get NBC, I was able to get an article write up with the San Diego Tribune. Those articles, that news coverage didn't happen because this program is so dope. It didn't happen that way. Let me see, let me start with the first one, San Diego Tribune. That one started, I did the same thing. I created a list of journalists. I had a contact sheet of about 400 people. One by one, I started dropping emails. This is what we're doing. This is what the objective is. I think this resonates with your people, with your story. I'd love for you to come check out what we're doing. Of the list of 400, 3 responded. And the San Diego Tribune, yo, that article that they wrote was so amazing that when CBS came to me, they said, we're so interested in covering a story, but we just read the San Diego Tribune article. We don't have anything else to ask. Like, they did such a good story. We don't know what else to do. Like, I'm like, okay, well, thanks for the interest. Let's keep it moving. So CNN was like, everybody was like, how the hell did you get CNN? Like, how did you do that? I said, well, I went on the website, and since the program at the time was animating for social justice, I looked specifically for either anchor people or journalists that covered that type of news. And I went to the top, I went to the director of diversity and inclusion, who's not a journalist. She's like managing all of them. And I reached out to her. And I mean, you never know, right? You
Right.
honestly never know. And I believe that, much like when we first met, when you feel somebody's energy and you feel like, okay, this person, I really believe in what they're doing, you click. So I reached out to her and I just said, look, I would love to invite you to this event. We're going to have a big showcase. We're teaching these kids that their story is very important. And more than that, we're teaching them how to exercise their voice through art and animation. And I'd love to invite you to the showcase. I didn't say, please come cover our story. I said, I want you to come witness this event. I didn't even know she was in like Chicago or something. And she was like, David, first of all, I don't live in California, but I do have some people that are there. She was like, let me reach out to them to see if they might be able to attend the event and maybe do cover a story. I was like, oh, snap. I wasn't expecting that. So she sends a journalist. And so I told the school, yo, CNN wants to come like do a story. Yo, the journalist, the videographer, the camera people, like the whole crew, when we meet up, every single one of them kept asking me, how did you get this story? Like, who did you talk to get this story? Because CNN doesn't cover these types of stories. I was like, it was just meant to happen. Sometimes destiny, it's very funny how it works. You know
Put
what I
it
mean?
out there, brother. You put it out there. You work the hustle,
Put it
and
out,
it came back to you. I
and it came
love
back.
that.
It came back, bro. So getting back to the whole point of why I even brought this up was handing those sneakers to Melvin, the anchor man, was very, very intentional because in 2009, Melvin worked at Spectrum, and my daughter and I had some unfortunate discrimination issues in the city. My daughter had some issues in school, and I had to go in and raise hell. And then I had some issues, which I don't want to talk about right now, but with the cops. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And I found myself having conversations with my 3 kids about, unfortunately, this is some of the baggage that we're going to have to carry because of how we look, because of our last name, because of our accent. It's unfortunate. Some people are just not ready to accept different cultures. While we live in this city, you just have to be big about it. Like, you cannot let them control how you feel. So the news got so big, Spectrum came and was like, yo, we want to do a story on all the discrimination that's going on. Telemundo even interviewed me and my kids.
Damn.
Bro,
Wow.
it was crazy. So anyway, I say all that to say that Melvin did that story, and he did a really good story, and that helped me get other opportunities. He then moved to Fox and just blew up because he had Good Day LA in the morning and then extra news at night. So this dude was interviewing top celebrities. So
Right.
I reached out to him and I was like, I don't know if he's going to respond, but I was like, you know what? On social media, I respond to almost all of his posts. I click like, I'll leave a comment, I'll congratulate him. Never ask for anything, but just show my support in that way. And when I finally did ask for something, he was like, are you kidding me? I don't want to do a Zoom interview. Come to the station,
Oh,
to the station. And
yes.
he's like, if you have artwork that you want to showcase, we'll give you a table to set it up. I'm like, what? So I was like, you know what? If he's going to look out for me, I need to look out for him. I need to reciprocate. So that's why I did those sneakers. And I found out his shoe size from his anchor person. I was like, yo, I
Right.
want to surprise him. So don't tell him. And then I bought them, I created them, and then boom. So what I did essentially was it was marketing, but it was also nurturing that relationship, you know, and in
I love that.
business, it's so important. Like it's so important, you know.
I love that. And I know we've been on for a while, I know we could riff forever, right? That last piece right there on the laws of I always get this wrong. Repre-
Reciprocate.
Reciprocation yeah, is um I don't even like for me, I have so much excitement and so much appreciation. Like I just want to throw it out there. I don't ever care if it comes back to me.
Right,
I really don't.
right.
Right. Like people know that I've been on a mission for the last 4 to 5 years. I'm like, I have lost sleep. I have done shit that I'm like, whatever, but carajo. I'm like, what do you need?
Mm.
Right. Because like you having to go through the work related pieces and everything else, unlike you, I get a pass, right? Because I'm fairly pale, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I know I'm that little clueless Puerto Rican kid who lived off welfare, Section 8, food stamps,
Mhm.
uh, that was just clueless.
Yeah.
And it took me over 30 years to try to figure out how I got to where I'm at now in a life of abundance, raising a family, right? I don't ever want that to happen for anybody else,
No.
right? So when you give back, just know my give back is I don't want little David or little Melvin, right? Right. I was like, I don't want to tell the world that that's my name, but it is, right? Uh, or as my mom would say, Melvin. I'm like,
with
in
a
my
with a
baby
B,
name, right?
the B,
Right,
Mel
Bing,
B.
right, Bing with a B and a G, right? I'm like, ugh. But I want, and this is what I loved about the creating the marketplace and marketing. I love the nuggets you dropped on the relationships and giving, right? Liking and kind of being engaged in the right way in social media,
Right,
right? Whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's IG, don't get me started on TikTok. That's a whole nother hot mess, right? Um, and it's about being the giver, right?
right.
And you gifted me a a a view and an artistry that I could look back at and look back at how I
Mm,
grew up and
mm.
my core roots and everything else. So for me, you have gifted me more than you'll ever imagine. So thank you for
Oh,
being here. Thank you for what you do. Keep working that hustle. I love the fact that you are a true executive leader, already knowing when you need to scale so you can focus on the things that keep moving the efforts and the message, right? I mean, you dropped it about 2-3 times. Now I hired people to do that. I taught them how to do it, right? One is you're elevating them, but two is you're making sure you can continue your path to 10x all of your efforts. Brother, you are the very definition of how to take a passion and an art and everything else and be the leader that everybody should be following. So thank you for everything you're doing, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate you very, very much. And you know, these conversations are rejuvenation for me. You know what I mean? So thanks again, and let's keep these conversations going, man. Whether they're recorded or not, let's keep it going, because I think
Amen.
sometimes we need that. You know what I mean? We need that little like jumpstart. Like, all right, I'm my cup is full now.
You need to get jacked up, right?
Exactly. Let's move now.
I know you have weights near you, right? I don't expect you to be, lifting 400 pounds by the end of the day because you're all jacked up. But but you're right. Like, we do need that, right? I needed this conversation today, right? It's the middle of the week. I'm working my hustle. You're working your hustle. I'm like, and you're dropping bombs like, you know what? I know it's, this is yesterday that I see your post. I'm like, I know it's Tuesday. I guess I should just tell the world I've got a musical coming out of New York. That's why I was like, get out. I'm like, no, I need to get him on the phone. So thank you for that. Thank you for continuing to build up the message and to attract people towards this, because it's important to push for, one, to be able to showcase the heroes of color, but also to showcase the artwork and everything else around that, right? The marketing, the sales, and how to be a connector, right? How to be a giver, and then how to understand that it isn't a quid pro quo, right? It's, you just want to look at, I want to look at you, I'm going to post this and I'm going to be like, I hope the world can go to his shop or commission the shoes or donate or show up to the musical and really see what I see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's hopefully what I'm going to continue to ride with you on, just making sure that I see that anything I can do to help you is what I'm going to try to do.
I appreciate you, man. This year I've been in touch with several people who have helped me get to where I am, and one of them is Ana Araujo. She was the executive director of the Boys Club in East LA. And they've since changed their name to East LA Rising, the company. But bro, in 2007, when my back was against the wall and I was at State Farm, I was probably the most miserable I had ever been in my life. I had reached out to her and I was like, look, I'm selling these multicultural prints and I'm interested in painting a mural in your anywhere in your building. I'll give you a major discount. And she was like one of hundreds. She was the only one that responded to me. And she was like, come to the center. And she bought like 20 prints. This was in 2007. To this day, those prints are still on the wall. She commissioned me to paint 2 murals inside the teen center. And since then, Kobe Bryant gave the East LA Boys Club a grant. I don't know how much money, but it was a lot. And then he actually visited the center and said, I'm going to pay to renovate this whole thing. So they redid the teen center, they painted it, they hooked it up with Lakers stuff. And then they told them, the kids told them, you can paint and redesign anything you want, but do not paint over those 2 murals. So they painted the walls purple, but they left my mural there. They didn't go over it. That spoke volumes to me. You know what I mean? Because in my greatest time of need, Anna just like, and then she kept in touch with me. She's like, David, how are you doing? What's going on? How's your business? And I never forgot that. So we spoke recently and she was like, what are your plans? What do you have? What is your 5-year plan? And I told her, I was like, look, I want to do a summer camp. I want to do a like an animation summer camp, but a day camp, not like a sleepover thing. And I was like, I'm not sure how to, like, where to start. And she's like, I can help you. You know, first thing is, are you going to charge the individuals, or how do you, I was like, well, the way I want to do it is I want it to be free. So that means I'm going to need a fiscal sponsor so that I can take donations, so I can fundraise, so that for the campers that come, and I want to target low income communities, because they're the ones who are probably less likely to get access to animation and technology. So I think this would be great for them. So she was like, look, let's work out all the details. Just know that I will be happy to be your fiscal sponsor. And I have a couple of people already in mind that we can call. And if we plan this for 2025, we can have it ready. We can have it up and running. So I was like, oh man.
Oh,
So you just keep
wow.
elevating. You keep taking how you give back, and you just give back in different ways. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I don't know where this is all coming from. I
I
can't tell
know
you, but
I know where it's coming from. It's coming from the core of your heart, man. It's coming from you representing the fucking, excuse me, the brown, like movement of how to show up, black or brown, like how to show up, right? And you're taking a passion, and a masterful passion that you have in artwork, and your ability to work the grind, and you're putting that energy out there. It's coming back to you, brother. It's coming back to you.
thank you.
Right. That's why, yes, it was 1 out of 3,000 or 1 out of X, 100. But guess what? That was the stepping stone, the catapult, and it happened for a reason that way.